to the Governor's Council on Women and Girls, Women and Leadership panel discussion in honor of Black History Month. And we are focused on increasing the presence of Black women in manufacturing. And I want to turn your attention to a November 2022 report on closing the gender gap in manufacturing. And this report was done by the Center for Manufacturing Research. And that report said that Black women make up only 29% of the manufacturing workforce. The report also noted that women were a sizable talent pool that manufacturing companies unfortunately ignore. The report noted that by raising the percentage of women to 35%, there would be an additional 800,000 women in manufacturing, which would be enough to fill almost every open position in the manufacturing sector. So some of these findings are, I think, important to highlight today as we begin our discussion. I think some of the things that manufacturing companies need to focus on in order to bring more women into manufacturing include increasing flexibility of schedules so that people can continue to care for their kids. And it's really important for retention, but also for attracting new employees. I actually met a female-owned manufacturing company where the CEO started a policy of having hours between 9 and 2 to ensure that both male and female parents can drop their kids off at school or help them meet the bus and then be home before the kids get home from school. So that's just one creative thing that a manufacturer has done. Also, the report cited a lack of child care options and support. That was a common issue, not just for women, but also for men. And providing job training, continuing education opportunities, and developing employee resource groups and mentorship programs were things that the report cited that would help to bring more women into manufacturing. Also, in 2022, the United States Department of Commerce noted that women working in manufacturing earned 16% more than the national median income for other women. And so what this means is if we want to achieve wage parity for women, the way to do it is through manufacturing and other high-paying STEM jobs. So when we think about gender parity, we need to increase gender diversity within the manufacturing sector to help close the wage gap. But unfortunately, women of color, especially Black women, don't always benefit from efforts to increase gender diversity in manufacturing. And so that's why we are all here today to hear from our amazing and fabulous female experts in this field to get their insights, to learn about their story. And these are leaders in manufacturing in Connecticut, and they are all connected to Pratt and Whitney. And these women are going to share their paths into their current roles and their ideas and insights about how we can get more women and women of color into manufacturing. So we're going to just jump right in, and I want to thank our incredible panelists for joining us today. We're going to start our fireside chat. I have a fireplace at the Capitol. It doesn't work, but this is it, our virtual fireside chat. So we're going to start with Lakisha. Lakisha, your role is with our state Office of Manufacturing, and I just want to shout out Connecticut because we are the only state in the country with a chief manufacturing officer. And so this office is incredibly important, and you are incredibly important because as Lieutenant Governor, I want to see people leading this office that show our state's diversity so that our girls and young women and women who are thinking about other career opportunities can see themselves in you. Can you explain to everyone, Lakisha, how you got to where you are?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for that introduction. Yeah, as you mentioned, Connecticut have the Office of Manufacturing, and I am the Industry 4.0 program manager inside that office. And that office was really developed to help the suppliers inside Connecticut adapt 4.0 technology, because that's really going to take them to the next level to develop, to manufacture, to move, and to be faster in every product that we manufacture. And we also are here to kind of help strengthen our workforce. My particular pathways wasn't that traditional, right? I came up from the inner cities of New York City, and I didn't have a lot of engineers or professionals in my area. But one thing I knew was that I had an eye for processes. I had an idea on how to do, I can figure out mathematics. And with that and understanding my strengths, led me down this path. I needed something stable. I needed to be able to support myself and my family. So I decided to go the manufacturing route. And through that, pursuing education, and within education, I found myself with Pratt & Whitney. Pratt & Whitney came and recruited at my college and brought me to Connecticut. And that's how I started developing in Connecticut, and then rotating myself around to different areas of manufacturing and also different companies so I can get a feel for what's out there, gave me the love and the background of understanding the big picture. And with that knowledge and with that understanding, when I saw the role available for the Office of Manufacturing, I kind of jumped into it. So
wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we want to turn to Dineille. And Dineille, am I pronouncing your name right?
No, but it's Dineille. You can call me
Dineille. Okay, that was going to be my other choice. Okay,
nice
Dineille. Dineille, thank you so much for joining us. And Dineille, 1 in 11 people in our state are immigrants, and you are one of those. You are an immigrant to the United States from Trinidad. Can you tell us, Dineille, what how your path led you to manufacturing and to your current role?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And thanks again for the opportunity to share my story. And it's a great pleasure to be with these incredible women as well. So I would describe my path as windy, but also exploratory. So when I migrated to the United States, I had the focus of studying environmental engineering. I attended a community college in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and then eventually I went on to UConn. As most Black families struggle with funding and finances, I didn't go to UConn right away, but the experience has taught me a lot about fighting. And so when I decided to pursue environment, health, and safety, it wasn't going the way I had planned. Someone mentioned to me, Pratt & Whitney, you should try to get an internship. And I said, okay. They mentioned a program called Inroads, which I'll talk about that later, but Inroads was my way in to have an internship. Since I've become full-time at Pratt & Whitney, I have been in the environment, health, and safety space. I've been in the quality space, leading a large team of inspectors. I have been able to manage engineers in their young, formative engineering career. And I was able to pursue project management roles. What was the most exciting role for me was becoming a general manager, because you don't see a lot of women in that space, and especially Black women. So, which has led me to my current role in manufacturing on the development side. And so my current role is the production chief for military development programs. So it's been very windy. I've had a lot of support, and but I have no regrets for all the experiences that I've had.
Well, thank you so much, Dineille, for that. And we're going to turn to Dr. Farrell. Dr. Farrell, how has your PhD helped with the work that you're doing? And also, please share your path to where you are now.
Absolutely, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for having me and for hosting this. The PhD, I think it helps me pretty much every day. There's a certain type of thought process and approach to solutioning that you really kind of only get when you go through that PhD process, because by nature, it's very exploratory, right? You start with what the state of the art is. You try to understand the limitations. You try to understand the gaps, and then that's where you can fit in as an individual, as a scientist, as an engineer. And that really applies to just everyday life, being in the manufacturing environment. I would say my career path, maybe from different perspectives, might be looked at as traditional, but also there were some interesting things along the way. My bachelor's is in chemical engineering and my PhD is in material science and engineering. Oddly enough, though, for mainly pharmaceutical applications is where my dissertation focused. And as I was looking for job opportunities, all I knew is that I wanted to do a lot of different things. And so that's where I started, kind of actually in a 180 position as a manufacturing or process engineering in semiconductor processing. So from that, I learned, I grew, I made mistakes, I got innovation awards, and then you kind of repeat that type of cycle as you move forward. I continued to expand, supporting across the entire value stream in manufacturing products. And then I eventually came to Pratt & Whitney, and right now I'm the Associate Director for Manufacturing Processes and Advanced Tech. And it's a super cool role. There's two parts that we're responsible for. One is the support and sustainment of our manufacturing sites. And then the second part is really that look ahead. What's the state of the art? What's the best practices? How do we vet it? And then how do we deploy it to our different manufacturing sites? So I would say it's all pretty inclusive of what I did in the PhD process. So I'm learning as always, and I'm growing, and I'm happy to lead the team that I have now. They really are technical leaders in their own right, and they are just changing the business, which is exciting.
Well, fantastic. Thank you each for sharing how you got where you are. And now I'm going to ask each of you to explain or to talk about barriers that you've seen in the manufacturing industry, barriers for women, particularly women of color, because I have had the opportunity to visit a very large number of manufacturing facilities. I've seen it. And it's interesting because company managers and owners will always tell me that they love hiring women because women are very detail oriented. They can multitask, that some of their best employees are women. And so understanding all of that, I don't understand why every manufacturing floor in our state isn't filled with women. So Lakisha, can we start with you? And then I'll ask our other two panelists to also talk about the barriers.
Yeah. So I would say there's three major areas that kind of create barriers in this industry. One is definitely the knowledge, two is the finance, and then three is the mentorship, right? So when I say knowledge, people's idea of manufacturing can be quite small. They don't really look at the big picture. It's not appealing, right? It's not, the aesthetics are not there. It doesn't seem beautiful. It doesn't seem like a lively place where a female will want to work. And I will challenge people to kind of really go beyond that. Go and see where the applications put you. There's manufacturing in every industry. Even if you want to go back to cosmetics or hair, there's no part of our world where manufacturing is not touching. So I would say go beyond that. And as far as the finance goes, there was a time when I was told not to apply for college, right? Because I didn't have the funds to take care of myself while I went to college. But when I went beyond that and I applied for college, and I realized there are funds, there are grants, that there are resources out there that will help you along that path. And then the last part is really about mentorship. And that's not only on the individual, but also on the corporations to kind of help spread the word and spread the knowledge. A lot of this information is not in books. So we really do need the community to kind of help shore up the individuals to let them know, hey, you can do this. So those are my what I would consider the barriers to manufacturing.
And I'll just say, to your point about knowledge, yesterday I had the opportunity to tour Abbott Tech. That's a tech school. Precision manufacturing is part of their curriculum. And if a manufacturer wants to hire one of the students when they graduate, it's a process they have to start 2 years before they need the person. And what's amazing is places like Abbott, places like Middletown High School, Hamden High School, Manchester High School have the opportunity to get associate's degrees while you're in high school, provided you start when you're a freshman on that path. And I've met students who graduate from high school with a job, with an associate's degree, with no debt, and then their employer pays for their 2 years of 4-year college. So thank you for raising that, and we need to get that message out there to our young people, because finance, you mentioned, was a barrier, right? Can you afford to go to college and study these things? And guess what? There is a way to do that for free and to earn while you learn. Okay, so Dineille, we're going to go to you. What do you see as some of the barriers?
Lieutenant Governor, Lakisha hit it right on. For me, I just want to echo the education piece of it, because I didn't know what manufacturing was all about. Yes, I grew up with wanting to figure things out, but growing in the country, all I knew was I want to protect the environment, and that's where I started. So if someone had said to me, Dineille, there is funding, Connecticut Aerotech is just $7,000 and you will come out with AMP certificate, like I would go after that because I'm very hands-on. But no one told me the opportunities. And I was actually one of the students that was looking for things, right? But because I did not have, a manufacturing sponsor or mentor, or someone in the community saying, hey, have you considered? It didn't come across my mind. So I think one of the barriers is like just knowing what is out there, and like having people that look like me that say, hey, like this is a great opportunity for you and you should do it. And I'll stop there.
Fabulous. Dr. Farrell, how about you? What do you see as barriers?
So one of the words or kind of descriptors that I keep thinking as Lakisha and Din spoke on it was sense of belonging. I think that's a barrier that people come up against, and it's very hard to navigate that. You know, people do their best when they can show up as themselves and they feel that they're in a comfortable space to learn and grow and make mistakes and, you know, maybe ask questions that they thought might have been silly. So if we're not looking at the culture, right, we'll never be able to, one, get the folks in the door, and then the second part of that is actually retain them, because manufacturing can be quite complex, right? It's a technical field and it requires a lot of rigor. And so if you don't have that mentorship, if you don't have access to that training coming in, right, it's very difficult to navigate sometimes, because we have folks who have been in these fields and these industries for 30 plus years, right? And so you're coming in as a fresh face, trying to understand, how do I get all of those data points that's in this individual's head and into mine so that I can also be successful? And a lot of times it's not very clear how to see that path. So if we can start by creating a place of belonging, having the mentorship in place, having the resources available, I think that will go a long way. And of course, you know, having folks like Din and Lakisha to be on calls like this and show representation, it really does help kind of put a frame of mind that, oh, I can achieve this as well. You know, I'm not trying to do something that's impossible.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Turning, and by the way, look at this picture. We see 3 successful, powerful, smart women who are in manufacturing, and just looking at you, it makes it seem very cool to me. Here, we're going to go back to Lakisha, and we're going to ask Lakisha, what specific programs are available in the Office of Manufacturing, either through that office or state partners, that can help women in the manufacturing industry? And also, if you could also maybe talk about the different types of careers that women can have in manufacturing. So what are the programs available and what are the career opportunities out there?
Yeah, this is a great question. So when we talk about programs, I guess we can kind of separate it between the individuals. So if we're talking about high school students, as you mentioned, there are some schools that's available with funding in internship. But for high school, we have the Career Roadshow, the Career Roadshow from Ready CT. That will actually have, and you can learn through this through your advisor, through your college, your high school administrators. They should be able to direct you there, or you can look into Career Roadshow online in Connecticut. And basically that's a program where we take manufacturers around the state of Connecticut that will give you a good idea of what potential jobs are out there. For the college student, we have CCAT. They have internships available, engineering internships available. And you don't even have to be just an engineer. You can be servicing an engineering company in other fields like accounting or or marketing. But as long as it's a part of the STEM kind of operations or manufacturing organizations. But so it's engineering internships. And for me, that's the best, because that was my intro into Pratt & Whitney. I did an internship during my 11th year, during my junior year in college. And through that internship, I gained a full-time position before I even graduated college. So that was definitely my in. I can't harp on how important internships are. And Dineille talked a little bit about that too. But
we have them in the Lieutenant Governor's office too, just saying.
Nice. Nice. We also are coming up with a new program called the Southern Connecticut University Mentor-Mentee Portal. That's not up and running yet. We're hoping to get that up and running, I think, sometime in May, but definitely look out for that. And that's where you're going to get actual, people that can kind of talk with you. Everybody's path is not the same, right? But getting that exposure to people who have done it, they may be able to give you an idea. So definitely look for the mentor-mentee portal that's to come. So those are some of the
And,
programs
and
that's
you know what,
available.
you mentioned that, and, I am the co-chair of Million Women Mentors, which it has the goal of connecting students, female students to, STEM leaders, including manufacturing. So we should just make sure that, we are working together so that, both pathways are,
Yes.
highlighted, and that young women know that they both exist.
Nice. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So, can you talk about, we want to go back to, you talked about the programs. Can you just give us a thumbnail sketch of the different types of careers? Because I think each of you are even, participants in different parts of the manufacturing world. So what kinds of careers could our women and girls envision?
Oh, yes, this is a great topic because it's evolving as we speak, right? So when you talk about the core engineering topics, the core meaning machining, lathing, cutting, inspection, testing, though in those areas in itself is quite broad. There's a lot of different pieces that goes into getting a plane off the ground, or getting a submarine in the water. So it's really broad. But what I say is kind of go to your fundamentals, learn mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, even piping. We need piping, welding. It's so broad, and then once you get yes,
Carpentry,
yes,
electrical, there are a lot
yes.
of building trades that are also involved in manufacturing. Yep.
Inspections, there's a lot of it's broad array of things that you can do. I would say just go to your core engineering, manufacturing, electrical, civil, and that will take you far. It's
And
too many to
also people
mention.
should know there's marketing, there's administration and finance, human resources. There are a lot of aspects
Supporting, yes,
supporting manufacturing.
yes.
Excellent. Okay. Dineille, I'm going to ask you to picture yourself when you were a student, and what advice do you wish that someone had given you then? And also, we saw from your background that you participated in a program called Inroads, and that was instrumental for you. So can you talk about that, please?
Absolutely. So I kind of touched on one of the advice I would have hoped to have gotten earlier, which is to pursue certificates and not necessarily go to college, because I think not every one's path is straight, and giving that someone's experience with funding may be limited, or your parents might say, you know what, I don't want you to go to college, I want you to like stay close, you just made it to this country, go pursue an associate degree. I think in my head, I want someone to say, you know what, go tell your parents that you could do it. You could go to the university, or, if I had the information, go do that certificate. Like, it's okay to like leave home and to explore. Because at that time I was already turning 19. And so like the fear of going somewhere else, and my parents kind of, I mean, they were protective, they were loving, but I think I needed someone else in my ear saying like, hey, like go do what your parents are probably fearful of, or go do something that is new and exciting in manufacturing earlier. And then you said you wanted to hear more about Inroads. So
Inroads.
Inroads is a nonprofit organization. They were very instrumental, as said before. They target the undergraduate students that are pursuing internships. To qualify, you would need to have at least one summer that's still available before graduating. And so I had the opportunity to do 2 summers, and both were at Pratt and Whitney. They offer training, leadership development at that very young age, but more instrumentally, they partner with corporations such as Pratt and Whitney, other companies within aerospace, insurance, and other companies. So it's not just manufacturing, but major manufacturing companies are partnered with En-ROADS, and you're able to basically learn a lot, but also prove yourself that you can do the work. And the good news is that when you perform, you would be hired. And so that's what happened with me. En-ROADS is a program that I would advise any undergraduate student to go pursue, so that you have that connection to internships and that open door.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And to your point about parents, I think one of the big points about manufacturing is that parents are unaware of opportunities that young people have. And you mentioned you wish someone told you that you don't have to go to college. And I'll just share the story that I heard at Abbott Tech. One of the teachers in the manufacturing program said that his son graduated in 2018 from the precision manufacturing program, and his son's girlfriend graduated the next year, and she was in the program too. They both immediately were employed by a Danbury manufacturing company, and today they own a beautiful home together in Bethel, and they did not go to college, and they love what they do, and they are really doing very well in their careers. So a lot of parents just don't realize what the opportunities are. And so that's what we're trying to do with our Office of Manufacturing, and the governor and I are trying to do with our Governor's Job Training Council and more. All right. So Dr. Farrell, you are the Professional Development Officer for Pratt & Whitney's Black Excellence Network Employee Resource Group. Can you talk about why it's important for employee retention and satisfaction, and for your organization to have that?
Oh, it's incredibly important. And I recommend everyone, kind of wherever you are, try to find those groups that you have an affinity with and who can support you. So BXN is very comprehensive. I just joined the organization, but already I'm just in awe of some of their activities. They have different drives. So they've had blood drives. They've also had, for me as a professional development officer, right, I'm really focused on really breaking down and understanding how we can help our population identify their career opportunities, be equipped to pursue them, right? Not just laying out, okay, well, to be successful, you need to network, but really breaking that down from a professional development and wellness perspective, right? What's preventing folks from being able to network? Is it things with self, right, that we have to help them unpack, right? Is it the culture that's holding them back? Is, how do we get on a one-on-one basis, right, to really identify what folks are needing within the organization, especially from a Black and Brown perspective, right? Because everyone's experiences are different, right? So we can't just roll out something that's going to be a blanket solution. It has to be detailed and it has to be targeted. So I would say for me, just even in undergrad, identifying the affinity groups that helped me grow were really crucial. For example, so this is pre-career, right? Really being involved in the National Society of Black Engineers. I served as senator, and I was able to go to different career fairs and leave with internships and graduate school opportunities as well. I also participated in Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and these types of groups are also mimicked, right, in the corporate world where we have our employee resource groups. And so, yeah, I would definitely say participating in BXN is a way to give back as well and to continue that pipeline and really focus on retention from a number of different perspectives. Mine is just kind of focused on professional development, but we also have mentoring officers as well. We also have folks that support on the finance side. So again, similar to manufacturing, there's a lot of enabling functions for folks to get involved from whatever their discipline is as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And was that Black Excellence Network started by Earl Exum?
Yes, yes.
He was one of the
The late
He was
Earl, yeah.
a visionary person who sadly passed away within the last year, and was the husband of one of our colleagues here in the state legislature, State Representative Tammy Exum. And I'm glad you're helping to carry it forward. Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask each of you this question. What are some of the common misconceptions that you find women have about the manufacturing industry, and how have you either personally addressed those misconceptions or dispelled them? So Lakisha, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is a great question. One of my biggest issues growing up in engineering, I've been told from various people, different races, different nationalities, just that I couldn't be myself. I was directed to talk a certain way, to move a certain way. It was to the point where even if I was in the parking lot of the engineering facility, you know, we make aviation equipment. If a plane passed by, every engineer will stop and look. And because I didn't stop and look, it didn't appear that I was an engineer. And that's how silly it kind of sounds, but it's like, you know, that's the beauty of diversity. You can come in being yourself, and through being yourself, you can develop and build great things. So for me, the biggest misconception is that I had to take on a different personality. And the way I dispelled that was through my works and through my efforts. Even though I came maybe not as clean cut, or maybe, you know, not with the straight hair, that even through my efforts, you know, even if I came that non-traditional route, that I'm still capable and can do the engineering work. So through my works is how I dispelled those misconceptions.
Yep, you just do a good job. Excellent. Excellent. And just so you know, we passed the Crown Act in Connecticut, so people's hair should not be a barrier. Just saying. And we thank Robin Porter for being one of the amazing advocates and authors of that
Nice.
legislation. So Dineille, how about you? What are the misconceptions you've seen out there or heard out there?
Okay, so since you mentioned the hair, you just like brought me back to, you know, when I first started out in the industry, even women of color, like they presented themselves a certain way. And so from very early on, I said, you know what, how I'm going to attack this is by being a little rebellious, the good trouble. So I said, I will wear my hair however I want. My hair is naturally curly. One day it's going to be braided. One day it's going to look like I have locks. One day it's going to be straight because I like straight hair too. And I'm going to show up. And what's going to matter is my job, what I'm doing in the space, the manufacturing space. So that's one of the things that I definitely rebelled against, and that's how I dealt with it. I even have a nose ring, by the way. Typically, you don't see leaders with a nose ring. So I'm very rebellious in that way. The other thing that I saw as, you know what, this is a problem. The thought that, especially on the shop floor, there's this good old boys club kind of feel and culture. So women in general are not typically in leadership in this space. And then just think about Black women. So how I showed up was, I'm like everyone else, and I'm going to do a great job. And eventually you'll see that, it shouldn't matter what our backgrounds come or look like, where we come from. And once we are able to execute and do the job, like, we should have a rainbow of people on the shop floor in leadership. But typically, that's not what you see.
Well, just so you know, people are always commenting on my hair, and they like this. This is not anything that people comment about with male politicians. So I totally get it. All right, Dr. Farrell, what insight do you have about misconceptions that women might have in manufacturing, and how can we tear those down?
Sure. I would say probably there's a misconception that you have to know everything immediately or even yesterday. And that's not the case. That is absolutely not true. You're in the role that you are in. Folks hired you, they believe in you, and you're their best shot to get it done. So just kind of feel confident that way, ask those questions, get the information that you need. So dispel the misconception that you have to know everything to do good in your role. And then the second part of that is, I would probably have to say, that you're not good enough, or you can't go after X or Y or Z. I think that you should apply regardless, and you should go for it. Don't look at a job description and feel like you need to have attained or demonstrated 100% of the requirements. That's kind of generally what we're looking for when we're hiring. But
Oh my
to be honest,
goodness,
if you have
absolutely. Men will always say they'll see whatever the next big job is, and women will say, oh, I can't apply for that because I need to get my PhD, or I need to get a master's, or I need to do this or that before I even try. Whereas men just assume they can. So women need to start assuming they can.
1,000%. Assume you can, and just kind of believe in the fact that you have integrity and you have good and a solid work ethic. And that's, I think, what's really important there. So that's what I would say. Dispelling the misconception that you have to know it all, or that you're not good enough for that next role or that promotion. And then also the last part I'll say is, you really need to advocate for yourself. Good work may get you more work, but it does not necessarily equate to a promotion or recognition. So matching that performance with visibility, making sure people know that it was you who came up with that idea and that you were the one that executed, is equally important. So don't just keep your head down and work.
And one way to show off in a very positive way, right? Not in a boastful way, but to show what you've done, is keep applying for those next positions. So you can say, I would be great in that role because I've accomplished these things, right? And by the way, I think what's interesting about what all of you have shared really are things that make people successful, and they're not really specific to manufacturing, right? They're just specific to how you can be successful. And speaking of being successful, I feel I'm successful because I have had some incredible mentors who have just helped me along the way, who have taught me so much, who have given me advice, who believed in me, even maybe, or believed that I could do things even though maybe I didn't think so, right? As a final question, ladies, do you have mentors? And you don't have to say who they are, but what have your mentors taught you, or how have they supported you in your career? So we'll start with Lakisha.
Yeah, mentors are so important. I find my mentors in every aspect of life. And when picking up kids from the inner cities, and you put them in these corporations and these professional atmosphere, you really have to kind of train them up, right? Because they didn't have this experience back home. So little things, I mean, simple things that you wouldn't even think about. When I came to Connecticut, I didn't even have a car. I was in Hartford thinking I can walk to East Hartford, right? That's as an engineer, you know, not thinking and not knowing. So when I got to East Hartford and working with Pratt and Whitney, it was my colleagues, my engineer friends that said, looked in a newspaper and said, back in the days we used newspapers, and said, hey, you know, this is a good car, call this guy. And when we called this guy and had the guy show up at the parking lot, my engineering colleagues are the ones that circled around that car to help me purchase my first Ford Escort, right? That's how important mentorship is. And even as I worked in the corporations and I could have been sitting at my desk, I took the time to go on the shop floor and hang out with the actual operators on the machinery. And that's how I learned and had the flexibility to move around and maneuver to get my job done, is just by befriending and requesting mentorship from everybody I came across. So the main point I want you to take away is you need mentors, and you need many types of mentors. You need a professional mentor. You need a person that can help you with soft skills, somebody that can help you with technical skills, and I mean the gamut, you know, name it. But mentors are very important, and you can get them wherever. Just look for them; they will show up. Go out there, put yourself out there. Your mentors will show up, and if you can't find them, you know, reach out to them. I'm sure people will be happy to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Dineille.
Lakisha, I agree with you that having several mentors for different things is absolutely important. And I would like to also add that sponsors and allies are also
Yes.
important. And I think that over the years, I've had a mix of those two. I know Lieutenant Governor said don't mention anyone, but I want to give honor to Earl.
Oh, no, you can. I didn't say, I just said, feel free.
It's okay.
Feel free.
Feel free. Okay. So I want to give honor to Earl Exum, who passed away. In my early career, I would ask him like certain questions. And then like we didn't have contact like regularly for years. So you have some relationships where it's like you can always go back to them. You want to like tap in maybe once a year, maybe once every, you know, quarter. But in my transition to this new role, I reached out to Earl and I said, you know, I'm looking for opportunities. And he pretty much put me in touch with a few of the people that he knew. And so I would consider him not only a mentor back in the early days, but also a sponsor and an ally for my career. Some of the things that I think really helped me with having those types of relationships was one, having difficult conversations as a new supervisor and all the different personalities. I remember having over 30 people at one point in my quality supervisor role. And so some of those conversations, I needed advice as a new leader. Some other conversations in terms of negotiating, whether that's your salary or whether that's, you know, just in everyday figuring out solutions with some sort of partner within your role. But I was grateful for the confidence instilled in me as I decided to make the switch from environment, health, and safety to more of a on the shop and manufacturing hands-on role. I didn't think initially that it was my thing. Ultimately, my mentor and sponsor, Dave Smith, who works at Stanley Black & Decker now, so he's not with Pratt & Whitney anymore, he was instrumental in saying, Din, I think you could do this. Go try the cell leader role, or go try this, or think about this. And I would say, I don't know, but he would always come up in my head as, yeah, go do it. And eventually I tried it. And guess what? I loved it. Now the operations bug has bit me, and he was right. So you do need to have those conversations with your mentors and sponsors, and those are different aspects that helped me in my career.
Right.
Yes.
Dr. Farrell.
Yes, I'll second and third everything that my fellow panelists said. It's absolutely important. And for me, kind of progressing through my career, I always took a moment to stop and look at who my mentors were, where they were centered within the organization. So I wanted to make sure that I had folks that were inside of my organization, outside of my organization, even broader. I still maintain mentors in academia as well. And then, you know, one of the kind of misconceptions that I think that folks have is that your mentor always has to have a quote unquote higher title than you. And that's not the case, right? It's experience, it's caring, it's those things that make a solid mentor. So I've had technicians that I've worked with in the past who are absolutely my mentors and still are. They were able to give me a lot of insight with 30, 40 years of experience that, you know, I just wouldn't have been able to get access to anywhere else. I'll share one of my absolute favorite mentors. I would come to her with my biggest and my best and my brightest ideas. And, you know, she'd give me a pat on the back and then say, all right, well, think bigger. And so she always challenged me. And that's what I would say for folks who have mentors and are looking for mentors. Sometimes it doesn't always feel the best, right? Because they're helping you identify what your gaps are and whatever your blind spots are and things like that. And, you know, I just encourage folks, and I always try to encourage myself too, to embrace whatever they're saying and try to find the gems, try to find where you can apply it, because, you know, sometimes you can't see, I think, the forest through the trees or vice versa, and they're able to do that. So cheers to mentors, and, you know, kind of a call to action to folks, you know, make sure you're mentoring people as well to kind of continue that change.
Right, right. Thank you so much, ladies. And we are now at the end of our discussion, but now we have the incredible opportunity to have some of our expert panelists answer questions. So I'm going to ask Christine Jean-Louis if we have any questions in the chat.
No questions from what I could see. I think the panel did a really great job in being thorough.
Oh my goodness, yes, they did well because they're women, which is, and they are female experts in what they do. And so I want to thank
Well, I see hands up.
oh, okay, what do we have? Okay. Do you have a
Yes, I just had one final thought on the topic of mentorship, since we didn't have any questions. You know, one of the women's conferences that my company had years ago, there was a guest speaker who challenged us to think about having mentors that don't look like us or are completely different. And I didn't think that was like a thing that I should pursue, but what she shared really made sense. And so, like, we get comfortable, especially as Black women, people from the Caribbean, such as myself, with people much like us. And so you never know how you will be challenged. Like Dr. Farrell said, like, when you get with someone that is totally different from you, different experiences, doesn't look like you, and they challenge you. So I would encourage all women of color to definitely pursue mentors and sponsors and allies that do not look like you and may not be even in the manufacturing space. You might learn something new. So that was my little thought there that I wanted to include. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is absolutely important. Thank you for that. I want to thank our panelists for being the trailblazers that they are, and for
One question popped up.
continuing to get the message out there. Yes, Madam Moderator.
Are any of our panelists engaged with the Society of Women Engineers?
Ladies?
I was in Huntsville, but I have not since I've gotten back to Connecticut. So thanks for a reminder.
Yes, I was in RPI in my early years of being an engineer, but I'm currently not a part of an organization. But it is definitely a great resource to come across other women in manufacturing in all areas of manufacturing. So that's a great resource.
Dr. Farrell?
So
Well-
SWE, I did participate in undergrad as well. I would say SWE also has a lot of kind of affiliate programs and events. So I'd say that I probably participated in SWE-sponsored events a little bit differently than being maybe on the engineering board and things like that, similar to when I was in undergrad.
And I'll just say that there is a women in manufacturing group in Connecticut, and it's fantastic. I have participated in some of their smaller networking events. There was one in the fall at a winery in Glastonbury, which was a lot of fun. And there was also an event that they did. It was an annual event, and there were hundreds of people who gathered in Bristol, Connecticut at a hotel, and there were a lot of women from Connecticut representing lots of different companies, small, medium size, and large. So I'd recommend that to everybody. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yes, and also just to kind of piggyback on that, Office of Manufacturing have Elevate Her. So if you're looking for something from the state of Connecticut, that's something you can kind of look into that's similar to the other manufacturing organizations that will help you along your way.
All right. Well, I want to thank our amazing panelists for joining us. Thank you for being trailblazers and role models and for sharing your time and expertise with us. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see
Thank
you.
you for having us.
Thank you.
Of course.